Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.
So thank you for joining us yet again on another conversation on manhood. Today's topic, a really, really impactful one. And I know I say that nearly every episode and conversation, but it is. I mean, it's to me, it's always very impacting, very insightful, and I hope that everything that comes out of this show and this forum, that likewise men and women out there listening also appreciate, some of the views expressed here. And they're just views. Remember, we always say we are not speaking on behalf of all men. We are a few men speaking to all men. So today's topic are the role and influences
of men in modern day parenting.
Of men in modern day parenting. So the role and influences of men in... No, you see, brothers, this is what I talk about. This is where we have to band together as brothers, right? Because instead of coming together, you see, the first opportunity is, I will tear the man down, right? I had a whole opening salvo, and because I remembered or didn't remember one word, and I called on my brothers to remind me,
right.
I had to get out with some Zeppo, some Trinidadian, a bit of Pecom, So the role and influence of modern day men and parenting. Mm-hmm. So change it wrong a little bit. So that's the topic today. To my right, Johanse IODK, Behavior Change Consultant. I think I might have to change our title up a little bit to maybe provocateur in some cases. Out there with the red jacket looking fly, right? To his right, Keevo, another good partner, comedian.
A man who needs no introduction.
A man who certainly needs no introduction. I need to introduce myself more than he would. Keevo, comedian, influencer, friend, manhood brethren, man of the people, so many other titles. Really appreciate you being here today.
Yes,
and father.
Correct as well.
And father. And who selected the topic for today? Also, Niall, to his right, Vibes God.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it.
That's sinking, right? Okay. In. So we're talking about a very apt, very current conversation. We've seen, up to a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, we've seen the conversation about the woman who had, I think, 7 children, fathered. 3 were fathered
by
one man, the other 4 by another man, and the influence or participation in how they were growing up seems to be almost null and void, or absent. And it really brings about this topic on so many levels as to, one, where are these fathers? What is the impact on no father being around? What pressure does that put on the mother to be both mother and father? What does she have to sustain to try and, not only also for her mental health, and so many other ways of us who are fathers, present fathers, how we are coping, because there's no roadmap. We're just doing our best, and is the best the best? It's our best that we know.
Is the best good enough?
Is the best good enough? So, guys.
Well, can I just jump in quickly just to ask about that woman that you're talking about with 7 kids, right? You said that the fathers are not around. Is it that they weren't around for her, or they weren't around for the kids? Because there are a lot of women who claim, I'm a single mother, when in reality, the pop still caring for the child. It's not that you're a single mother, you're single and a mother. And there's a difference now, So I just want to clarify.
So in this particular case, the mother had said that the fathers do what they can. Right,
okay.
But the state of she's looking for employment, and her plea to the nation was, of course, for assistance
financially.
So
it don't have to be that the men were, I just don't want to be part of my children's
we
life
don't
at
know,
all. Okay.
but there are circumstances. I'm only using that as
the most recent
as a most recent story, because there are scenarios, as we know. We have friends, we have family, we know people. I mean, it's in the nature, regard to, maybe it's attributed to maybe levels of crime where children turn to gangs, etc., because of the absence of a father. So I'm only using that to say, here we have another scenario similar to that.
Where I wanted to get to was, when I say it's not the same, is I feel that we have to clarify. A lot of the times, it's real easy to say the men are very absent in children's life, but the reality is, a lot of the times, men just can't deal with the woman. Men just prefer.
But that doesn't make them not absent, eh? Even though they can't deal with the woman, and that means they're still absent.
I guess.
So even though there are reasons, and I wouldn't say valid or non-valid, the point is, if a man say, I can't deal with the woman, and so I'm not dealing with the children, he's still absent.
If he wants to deal with the children, but don't want to deal with the woman.
Well, that's called co-parenting.
Well,
you have an understanding of co-parenting.
He's still there.
So you have them maybe 4 days a week. I have them the other 3 days a week. There are ways to go about it. Now, there are scenarios where the woman, to spite the man, right, or vice versa, depends who, it depends on the situation, will not allow that other person to see the kids. I mean, then you have to go to court and try and get, custody and all these different things. But I'm talking about outside of those particular scenarios. Or we could dive deep into it, later on. But we're talking about men's role and the various roles or understanding of
Being a father in this modern time.
being a father in this modern time, and what we face. So that could be one.
Well, we could start with a simple definition. To me, a father is, without looking at Google anything, simply, if you give the sperm for the egg and you make a child, it makes you a father. Now, I know that's the most base version of a father. And I'm starting there because we could start to build on it, because we know a father takes a lot more than just donating the sperm.
Well, to be a dad.
If we go in, well, right. See, we're getting a little semantic there. So, a father, to me, we start on that basis somebody who fathered a child, meaning that you gave genetic material and a child
You
creates.
found fertile soil.
Right. So we starting there. Right. Now we can start to add on it, because whether it is you're married to the woman or not, or you even like the woman or not, once you have a child, I think your role now changes. So we can start to define now what we mean by father. So let me start, Keevo. What would you define a father as?
A father is the foundation on which a child builds him or herself. So he provides that safe base and also the tools for that child to be able to build themselves from 0 to 7, 7 to 40, 40 to 21. So in essence, without a good foundation, without having that stable foundation, you can't really build a house. And you'll only condemn a house if the foundation off. So they always talk about the father being the roof. I don't think the father is the roof. The father has to be the foundation of the house. So for the child to build themselves, you need to be that solid foundation. So a father or a dad is the solid foundation provided for the child to build.
So when a father tells his children, like fathers love to tell their children, listen, when you're under my roof, or you could say, well, it's not really a roof, Dad.
No.
You're supposed to be the foundation.
Your foundation.
Yeah. I'm walking on your foundation, but this is not your roof.
The roof could blow up easily. But the foundation, most times in our society, is broken because there's a foundation issue, right? And if you could only condemn a building if the foundation is off. So I think the father is the foundation.
So what I was telling you, Johan, say, when you thought it was semantics, I do let things go easily, right?
Go ahead.
To say that, there's that old saying where you say anybody could be a father, but not everyone can be a dad. You could father a child, you
Only you know that saying.
you donate. Well, Keevo knows it.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard that.
Once you have a certain,
Bed.
Once
that's all the pepper there,
And I don't think you fell in a bucket of paint on your way here. So I'm assuming you have some levels, right? But anyone could father a child. Anybody could provide the sperm. You can have intercourse, and you can father a child. But it takes something different to be a dad, to be there present, to be there in the child's life. More importantly, to show the mother respect. Because no matter what your circumstances are, even if you're co-parenting, you've had a divorce, you've fallen out for whatever reasons, in the presence of a child, you must exalt that person. Make sure that that person sees that mother as her queen or his queen.
Yeah.
And how to treat another woman, because you can't be treating that person a particular way in front of the child. I mean, you shouldn't treat them a particular way, any negative way at all, but certainly not in front of the child, and then expect them to do anything different because they're learning like a sponge. They're learning. So that's one of the first things, and a second would be, of course, providing.
Yeah.
In whatever capacity, even if you can't financially make it, your duty is to do what you need to do to ensure that that child has the best upbringing and foundation as possible. And another thing that I hold true that my father would tell me, and you see it bandied about all the time, is the father is the only person who actually, your children, are the only people that you actually truly want to see do better than you. As a father, you want to see your children be better than you are. And it's only, and if you really think about it deeply, everything else is, do I really want to see Niall do greater than me? Do I really want to see you? No, you should. But again, I like to use the word utopia. But so the loss of a father, I mean, we could go into that conversation, but
I would say
I feel like I'm rambling.
You're not rambling. But in terms of
Yes, he was rambling.
wanting somebody to get to do better than you, I want everybody to do better than me here. But I don't think I'm invested in getting them to be better, right? Hey, I want you to do great. I want you to do great, right? Because for me, we're not in the same lane, and why should I fight you down for succeeding?
Yeah.
But my child, I'm invested in making sure they become better than me. So I think that's the perspective. I am invested in making sure that you become
better than you. That's
Keevo 2.0.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I would add my definition, because I was going to say my definition of father is consistency, and that could also tie into what you're saying about that foundation stability. So even if he only have $10, but he given that $10 every month, even though it's not $1 million, I could count on a father to be there, right? And then you said being present. Even if you can't provide every single thing, just knowing that, your father there, I think that is a real important part. And I would say that I think that's where a lot of fathers miss the mark. Because sometimes I think being consistent in an action takes a lot more effort, even if it's a small action, than doing a big bravado of things. Because you could come and do all kind of things for a birthday party, but then the child never see you for the next year. Or if you come with one lollipop every Saturday, which could come out much cheaper than the birthday party, but that one lollipop every Saturday will make that big difference. So I would say for me, the father is a figure of consistency.
Would you, Keevo, would you say that a father needs to be in the household for that foundation to be set?
He needs to be, mainly because I think there are three things that help a child develop. So one, identity, meaning as a young man, he sees what a man should be. Two, individuality, where the young man or the young woman sees the opposite sex parent in terms of learning their emotions, how to manage their emotions and regulate it. And then the third part is intimacy. As Robert would have said, how do I see my mother and father interact with each other? So I learn how to treat my girlfriend when I get older. I learn what a man should do for me. All those things from the woman's perspective. So him not being there, while, of course, if it is that you go to daddy's house and mommy's house and they have their own spouses or girlfriends or whatnot, they could still see it that way. But ideally, the two parents who would have birthed them, it would help. But I'm not saying it's impossible, but ideally it should be that way.
Okay.
So we need to go to a break. And we're talking here about the roles and influences of men in modern day parenting. So, a lot in there to take in, either men not being present, the importance of foundation, breadwinners, this term that, when men are looking after their children, it's called babysitting. A lot of things inside of there, but we'll talk a lot more when we come back.
So, welcome back to Manhood, and most importantly, today we are really honing in on the topic of the influence and role of men in modern day parenting. And for me, it's important for us to talk holistically, but get down into some more specifics. And one thing I always thought about in terms of the whole rhetoric of the absent father. Now, when you think about the absent father, what do you think is the impact of the absent father on the household?
Ooh, that's a real saucy question. So, mine might be a little bit, my opinion on it might be a little bit touchy, right? A lot of the times when you hear men doing the wrong things, especially towards women, they say, teach your sons to do the right things. Teach your sons not to RAPE. Teach your sons not how to respect women, blah, blah, blah. So I sit back and be like, okay, absolutely correct. Teach your sons how to do that. But then when I look back and I'm looking at data now, actual data, which is the majority of men that do infractions or step out of bounds or do anything overtly out of time into women usually come from single mother households. So when I hear women say, teach your son how to treat women, what I actually need to hear is, ladies, we need to teach our sons. It's not an outward, hey men, teach all your boys how to do this. It's really, ladies, we need to teach our sons how to deal with certain situations as they arise, because I say most of these issues are coming from single mother households, right? So then that really comes on back to, is it that women are not doing the right choices, not making the right choices based on the type of men that they're choosing to have children with? Hence where
Prime
that
Minister get in
vacancy
trouble
is
for saying
happening.
that,
What's that?
I said the Prime Minister get in trouble for saying what you say. Eh?
I mean, but I could understand why, because I could understand how it could get people upset, but the reality still remains that
Choose the man.
it is choices being made. Even after you get pregnant, you have choices. You have choices even after that happens. But the point still remains that if there's an absence of a man in a household that can potentially lead to a child not having the right foundations to be in a social setting, a lot of women have a lot of accountability to hold for that.
What I will say there, right? Parents need to teach their children. I wouldn't
I
say
agree.
man, woman, parents. But when it comes to men, I am of the opinion that you cannot teach a man how to be a man from a woman. The woman
Okay.
could talk and talk and talk, and I could advocate and say that a woman in the household telling the son X, Y, Z, but he is not listening to the woman because he is in need of a male structure in front his face telling him that.
Correct.
Does he have to be a father? It could just be a male figure,
It's a
right?
male
I
figure.
agree. I
Male.
agree.
A male
Right?
figure.
Absolutely agree.
So as much as, we might say women not advocating and trying to teach their son, there are some women who just have that masculine bravado and could make sure their son's in line, and there are some women who just can't do it. Biologically, you need a man to tell you these
Sheep
things
don't
as
make
a
goat.
boy, right? And if I'm telling you, when you hear the term "wait until your father reach home," there's a reason why that's a scary term.
That's still
Right?
fair.
There's a reason why that's a scary term.
Yeah.
Wait until your mother reach home is not well known, even though I and all my friends my mother still. Right?
True.
But there's a reason why wait until your father reach home is a scary term. It sets you in line. There's a bucket.
Well,
of what-
you do hear wait till your mother reach home, but when you hear that, it's normally wait till your mother reach home to ask if you could go out or to
Exactly.
make something fit to eat.
Exactly.
It's a different.
Right? So there's a bucket and water concept that speaks on the father represents the bucket, the water represents the water. If you have no bucket, the bucket represents discipline and boundaries. If there's no bucket, the water now can go wherever it wants and find itself in the gangs, etc. If there's no water, you become hard and emotionless because you're just structured in bucket.
Keevo evangelizing
So,
here today.
so the focus here is that we as men need to have more available men to teach these men how to be men. Now, there are men who are going to run off. They're going to realize the pressure of being a man and a provider is extremely hard, right? And it's just too much when they realize, wait now, I want to have my own son, but when they realize that this child you respond for this child every single day.
You can't switch off.
You can't switch off.
You have no
It
vacation.
could send you mad. And they could run off.
So, Keevo, I wanted to I want us to. I want to come back to something Niall said, but I want you to hold on to that point because that is a huge part of the discussion that we're having here today and what the topic is about. Because we are speaking a lot about fatherhood, but I want to specifically address those aspects of fatherhood and parenting. So we spoke about the woman, we spoke about a bit about fathers, and that a woman can't. You need a man in your life, whether it's an uncle, whether it's a brother. They need. You hear the saying sometimes sheep don't make goats, and and in this case, it's like you need a man to be able to address another man with the biology, all sorts of things. But the truth is, we as fathers, me with a 7-year-old, you have a 6-year-old and a 6-week-old. You don't know if you're always making the right choice. All you can do is you make the choice that you think is right and you hope for the best, right? But therefore you're molding and influencing another human being. That's scary. That you just don't know whether. I mean, as we talk about modern day parenting, whether we don't have corporal punishment again, so you don't put a hand on a child. Now you hear about. Well, that's
they don't beat all the children.
No. I speak to my son, but now you're hearing about whether you raise your voice, you're supposed to come down to the height of the child because then the child just sees you as a giant, or they go into a shell, and you see all these shows and all these things about it. So you ask yourself, what from what you got growing up and how you now have to parent, what is the right decision? So you only go in from an instinct. And for some fathers, it's too much.
Yeah.
But when they bust out, you're now leaving a mother. And I just want to address one more point, Johan say. You're now leaving a mother to raise a child by herself because she's not running away. She's being more, if we to coin the phrase, more manly.
I agree.
As a result, because she's not abandoning a cub, a child, a pup, right? And when you say that women are accountable in this particular situation, it takes two to tango. And in the same way, we could say, well, the woman chose the man. That man, we all know as men, we like chain up. We present something in a quarter period to get what we want to get. And so you've presented yourself in a particular way that was that attracted the woman, and then you changed as a result of it. And because she is the vessel,
she can't run away.
She can't run away. But you have. And so the woman having a child as a result of that was left with no choice. The man had a choice, and he took, in certain cases, the easy way out, the cowardly way out.
I don't consider those boys men, by the way, right?
Right. No, but you said that the women are accountable for...
No, I said the woman should hold themselves accountable to a lot of the things, especially when there's an absentee father in a household. They must have some sort of accountability.
But the man could have presented himself falsely.
It still has a responsibility. So what I was going to say, sex. Sex is an adult thing. Notice I say that sex is an adult
big
thing.
Man thing.
Because even though, yes, sex could be pleasurable, it still could result in a child.
That is, yeah,
So if you're having sex, and it is a serious thing. I mean, it was difficult for me. I remember hearing that because, he's a teenager, your hormones, you want to experiment. But, I mean, as an adult now, I understand that sex is an adult thing. I remember my wife told me it had this couple who, every time they had sex, they used to put $100 in unit trust. Right? Because they knew now, of course, as a couple, so they were being responsible, but it may sound funny, but I understand it. Because
just in case.
Just in case.
Easy account.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Just in case, because one, in my profession now, seeing the results of poor parenting, single parents, and seeing so many children, right? To be honest, is heartbreaking at times. I remember when I used to do some work with family court, and after a while, having so many custody battles and things, I just started asking these parents, I said, why did you all have children? And 100% of the answers were selfish reasons, Because, well, I want my mother to get a grandchild before she dead, right? Well, I can't dead alone. I had to have somebody to take care of me, right? It was all along those lines. Well, I had to have a lawyer and a doctor and something in the family.
Legacy too.
It had
Legacy.
plenty land. I had to have X, Y, Z. Now, I'm not saying, not judging whether these reasons are good or bad, but understanding why I have a child.
But
is-
man
is
also want to
real
spread the
important.
seed. You know, you're telling yourself, listen, I want to have a child. I want to see a mini me, or I want to see, make sure I'm, you know, I swim in.
Well,
Right.
that's being a father. If you want to see
And
that,
it don't make you a man because the elders, my, let's say, father and grandfather generation, I remember it was a big thing. Well, I have real children now, they ain't taking care of none, eh?
Correct.
Right? But
Correct.
to just see that they have real children.
Yeah,
And to be honest, in my family, it had a lot of men who did that. And if you see the hurt, it caused now generations of hurt because we now trying to repair it because sometimes when you go to family reunions, no lie, maybe the last 7 years straight, we've met a new person. Now the good thing is we all coming together and making it, but they went through a lot of hurt. They didn't know their family, etc. So I'm saying, whether it is, you spoke about women choosing the right man, but even men knowing the responsibility because we have the seed.
that's true.
Right? And you had say fertile ground before. So men choosing wisely the woman and then even choosing who they have sex with. You talk about men chaining up women just to have sex. Imagine you chain up a woman to have sex and then a child come out of it. Right?
Yeah.
That in itself is an insincere thing.
But you hear these things you want to say all the time on guys. We know it, you know, just the tip. You understand? You hear all those things. I go pull out. You understand?
I promise, baby, I'm gonna pull out.
I'm gonna pull out. Or the woman saying it's okay, you know what I mean? We go do something after in the heat of the moment. All of these things, as you mentioned about sex, happens at that moment because we're not really thinking that this copulation, this coitus is going to lead or could lead, because biologically it could lead to a child pregnancy, and as a result of that, you know, but you're not in the heat of the moment. You're not thinking that, women telling you,
I
you
can't
know,
take heat of the moment as an excuse.
allergic to a condom.
Well,
Can't
you
tell
see,
this.
one of the things I always say is that you know, generally men have a problem with regulating their emotions, right? And if in the heat of the moment you don't have emotional regulation, you're going to just go in and do what you had to do because you just want to get what you want to get. And we all know, the less blood in your brain, the less thought you have. And if it is down, they have more blood pumping. You're not going to be thinking straight. So it really starts with having proper emotional regulation to know what the consequences are. When I say consequences, or the potential results can be from doing this action with this person. You know this person, you know how well they are in terms of if they have nieces and nephews, how they treat each other, and what kind of person this person is. The physicality of the person is not enough to say whether or not we can even co-parent. You don't know anything, and you still go through and do such. So I just think, yes, if they say you want to have sex, fine, but you need to know at least that if something does occur, that we could at least co-parent to make sure that this child doesn't feel as though we didn't want them to be here. So emotional regulation has to start with the men and the women.
But Keevo, does not come in almost Nile, like, you know, yes, if we have sex, we're going and thinking there's a possibility of a baby. It's almost like saying, you know, if we go out on a date, you know, it could be marriage.
No.
It's almost, there are people that think that you go on a date and this could lead to, you know, the
But of course
expectation
it
of
could.
marriage
But
in
that's
certain
still,
cultures and
but that's
certain.
still decisions being made along the way until marriage. But sex, though, 32 to 36 will always almost lead to impregnation.
But how many people thinking of that, like you said, who has an emotional intelligence?
They don't.
They
They
don't.
think.
That's just intelligence.
Yeah.
That is just straight intelligence.
Nah, because I remember doing some sessions with boys of various ages and girls also. And what you're saying is intelligent. Sometimes you just don't know. You know?
Those are children. You said boys and girls. We're talking about adults because we already know that sex is an adult act.
No, we saying it's an adult act. That don't mean
It should be an adult act,
It
but
should be an
puberty.
adult act.
But so then what we're saying is that I could be 36 years old and still a child then.
Okay, 18 you're legally an adult,
Right.
So we're going legal. We're not talking about mental and
Yeah.
emotional understanding. So even at 20, 25, you could not understand what ovulation is, when ovulation is. You may not understand what exactly it has.
What I do understand is if I have unprotected sex,
There's a
there's a
potential for
potential
that.
of a child.
So there are avenues.
But not everybody understand that. Let
What?
me tell you. Listen.
If you don't understand
can
that, you're not
tell
supposed to be having sex. If you have no money, you're not supposed to be having
that,
sex.
but that is not
saying
what
that.
ideally happened. Because I will never forget, there was a 23 and 24-year-old couple, and I remember the guy saying that if she get pregnant, it's her fault because it's her decision. So he could ejaculate in her, but it's only if she get pregnant. That's because she wanted to. And,
Right.
and
Mentally.
and she thought that too. And
That's how
both of them were
correct you say
serious with that.
If you ejaculate in her.
Ejaculate.
Well, behave yourself. Right. But I say that because that may not be the common, but it have people who are ignorant about sex.
Yeah.
Ignorant about the dynamics, the logistics of sex. So even though you thinking certain things obvious to you, and you saying, well, as an adult, and a responsible adult, will XYZ, some people don't know, you know.
Well, all right. Well, before we go to the break, let me just leave a question that you could ponder as the two fathers in this room, right? At what age do you all think is appropriate to have a sexual education conversation with your child? Because I never got it when I was a child. I never had that birds and the bees combo with my dad or my mother. I had to figure that out. But Hugh Hefner, bless me, with, Hugh Hefner taught me sex.
Yeah.
You understand? So what I hear now is that there's a disconnect of education not properly happening. So when we come back from the break, you'll let me know how you'll deal with that with your kids.
Okay.
All right? Talk to you all soon.
So thank you for staying with us here on Manhood. Johanse, Keevo, Nile. We're talking about the role and influence of modern day parenting as it pertains specifically to men. And before we went on the break, of course, Nile asked the question from Keevo and myself that, in short, when is the right or appropriate time to have sex ed with your children and specifically to us? I mean, and I must say that I, like you shared, Nile, never really had that birds and the bees conversation. You know, we had Playboy magazines floating around in the school class. You know, it was giving away some of my age here. It was VHS tape.
Yeah.
You know, and you're looking
VHS.
at a little
Blues.
You know, a little blues. and that's how you're learning. So you were learning based on not so much the education, but it was almost educating about sex. Not sex education as into consequences and all that. It was an education as to how to have sex, which is different.
Yeah.
And of course, through the mediums in which I would have gotten, and I'm sure a lot of people would get that, it was more, it was appealing. It was like, hey, you know, you kind of...
It was more entertainment.
You're being driven to, I want to experience that too. And so the question that you more specifically might have been asking is, maybe when would I have that conversation with my son?
And how?
I am one of those that, you know, people say, you know, you shouldn't be the best friend with your child. You know, you need to be a father. You should not be. Some people think that. I think you can have a balance, and I can be a best friend with my son in terms of certain activities, and other times when he knows I'm his father. But we must always know that there's respect and that trust. Another very important thing, so that he can have that conversation with me, so that I will know what's happening, but I mightn't always condone it, and be happy about it, but I wouldn't berate him for it or you know, or embarrass him for it. And so therefore, in that conversation, I would like it to happen organically, as to if he mentions about a woman or a girlfriend or anything happening in his life, just to say, hey son, you know, just make sure that you're really ready, that she's ready. You know, movies show you a lot. In those conversations that we could have, a lot of segue conversations, and just say, you know, be safe. I mean, again, he's 7, 11 years from now, who knows what the environment's gonna look like, what's gonna be out there. You know, we spoke about it in the last episode where we spoke about AI. And so it just for me, it's have an open forum, an open dialogue, and something I want to talk about more in this particular segment is for him to make the right choice, and all I can do is say what I think is right at the time. It might be the best advice.
Well, okay. Well,
I think
Keevan.
for me, content is very available in terms of when I was, around 9 or 10. I think my dad had a conversation with me. Right, I remember it clearly because hearing that word for the first time and him explaining everything for the first time, it was very loud. So I remember where I was and what was the conversation was about. But I only had two forms of media. Right, I had paper media, I had TV, and I had radio. Right, and in that time, everything was very well covered for you to not know what sex and remain innocent. Now a child can get information like that at 4 years old on a laptop. If they scroll too fast, they'll find out for themselves. So
Let me ask you something. In there, when you were having that conversation, did you feel any kind of way? Was it odd? Was it awkward?
It was awkward because it's not something that you ever heard before. And for me, it kind of scared me into remaining celibate for a period of time. Like when I was like, dog, based on what my father tell me, let me just not get into that right now.
Cool it.
Let me pat down now, boy. Right? So that kept me away. That conversation kept me away for a good while. And it also helped me understand, like, stepping back and looking at what the consequences were, why probably he had to say it like that, because it was a real aggressive conversation. And I think now, because content is so easily available, a child could teach themselves by 5 years old, right? In terms of being on the wrong phone, seeing everything. So I think when they are at the age of reason and make the right decisions, teaching them about good touch and bad touch as early as possible, and then segueing with segments of the conversation, because there's some things you can't just give a child at 7 everything one
So
time.
this is what a rose fowl is.
You understand? Right. So you can't do that at 7. So starting initially, and then probably when I get to 11, we have another conversation and take it in parts. So
when is all in your music as well? I just spoke about content. All in music where they tell you go out and
Well, just now.
the content.
Let me jump in here. So I'm going on a little bit of Robert, a little bit of Keevo, and then I'll come in with some of my own experience. What you're saying about you have that relationship with your son, is striking the balance between best friend and father, right? And then what you're saying about your father giving you the information. What I would add there is that now, I am not a biological father, but I have defined myself as a professional father, because I have many clients who come from a single parent home and is boys with their mom, and as a result I am the male figure in their life. And sometimes mom would bring the boy and say, well, it's better he have the conversation with a man, right? So even from that point of view, so one, having that relationship with your son is important, because even if you not kind of marking the years, he will feel comfortable enough to come and ask you a question.
Correct.
Right? And then having the right information is important, because even before having the conversation, you ought to be comfortable to have that conversation with
and this is what I'm talking
with your
about.
son.
And maybe that's why.
Sorry,
No, I'm just saying that maybe that's why my dad and I never had the conversation. Maybe that's why I want it to happen, as we having discussions and it's happening around but I don't know, because I haven't experienced that and how it's delivered. I don't know whether I may feel awkward in having that conversation with my son.
Right.
And then the other thing is, by having the conversation, you don't want to put the fear of God in them with regards to it, because
Or maybe you should.
but while you do, it's like holding your child back from something or telling them they can't eat something, and the moment they go out there and get a taste,
it's
they
not
love it.
fair, you just go action, reaction. So son, if you have sex is what creates a child. If you decide, depending on the age, depending on who the question asks.
But this is it then. So when is that right age? Because they have these things about grass on the pitch, and all of these all these phrases when people come into puberty, right? And at that age, so you pre-puberty, basically, puberty at or prepubescence, or what was it? I can't remember the term, at 10 and 11 and things like that. Some even younger. So at what point are you then having that conversation? Because you might tell yourself, okay, at 16 or 18, I'm going to have this
Right.
conversation. And action happening before that.
So this is to answer your
Good
question.
touch, bad touch, according
This
to
is to
Keevo.
answer your question earlier. Remember, Robert, you were expressing concern about whether or not a father would know if he's correct in what he's telling his child, whether it's a boy or a girl. And we don't have no manual for parenting. And what I've realized, a father, and I've seen this so many times, I could say it emphatically, any father who is investing in his child, who, whether it is there with the mother or not, if you're paying attention, he is no. So I'm not giving it's better at 5, it's better at 6, it's better at 8.
Yes, no way.
A father who is really invested in his child will know. So even if he doesn't necessarily see anything from the child, let's say he had a conversation with the friends. Say, they're starting to talk about this. Maybe
time.
you need to talk about this. Or I noticed my son moving a certain way. I noticed he got an erection and he was feeling awkward about it. If a father is paying attention, he's no. So I put in that out. They have no exact science for that. But and a father, so any father too, and I would add, there are many times fathers bring their children to me, and then after an assessment, me and the father talking, and many times what I say is confirmation for the father. He already knew, but he was unsure. And that has always be a good thing to me because it shows me the father paying attention. And even the fact that if he bringing his son to a profession, I mean that he even invested in the child. So I say that because sometimes parents will be worried about, when to do this and when not to do this. And I mean, to be honest, I don't know no perfect parents, but I know sincere parents. And when you're coming from a sincere place, when you're paying attention, you almost know at times something different, something off, and I should have this kind of conversation with my son or my daughter.
So, Niall, I want to, I'm going to give way. I just want to be able to say that we're speaking a lot about fathers. I mean, this is manhood after all and fatherhood. But I want to incite the provocateur a little bit, right? To say that the topic is the role and influence of modern day parenting. And yes, we're speaking about men, but also within that is not just our responsibilities, is what do we expect as fathers from the mother for our children as a rule, because we're talking about parenting, right? What is our expectation from the mothers raising children, our children as well, or, and also from that perspective, outside of that, what maybe the mother's expecting of the father and not seeing or could compliment us for?
That's actually a good question. I don't know why you chose me to target that towards, seeing that I'm one who don't have any kids, but I feel like there's a proper moment now where I could now say men have a lot of accountability to take,
But I'll take up the challenge now. Even though he's not a father yet, what would you expect from your wife, who would be
And
a
your
girlfriend
son.
who's a mother?
I mean, it depends. Again, what I expect from my wife, next thing the
In
wife,
relation to your child.
next thing the woman that I end up with is someone where I just only want a child from her. That's the conversation I went into the marriage with. Hey, I don't really need much from you. I already have everything that I could buy all the other support staff needed. I could buy a babysitter. I could hire a babysitter, hire a house cleaner, hire everybody else.
You get for a surrogate.
I just might need I need an oven to put my muffins in. You understand? And that might be the conversation. In that case, I just needed to stay healthy. Keep peace in my mind. Don't aggravate me too much. Make sure the housekeeper's doing or the babysitter's doing what they're supposed to do. That might be the conversation. Or it might be somebody who I, very much into legacy. I want 10 kids, by the way, for anybody out there who wants that. Right? So I want a big family, right? Well, I say all the time, you start with one. And I'm like, the reason why you're saying that is because more than likely is you're feeling overwhelmed with work and time and blah, blah, blah. That's the major thing that I've seen people be like, you only need start with one. But if money is not an issue, right? Money is not an issue. After that, it's just your time. And if I don't have to sell my time to make money, then I could invest all my time in being a father. Then I could have as many kids as I want because I don't have that. You understand what I'm saying? So going back to the question that you asked and me to attempt, right? They still have accountability that men need to have in the choices of women that they're choosing, because a lot of the times men is going just for the jam. I just want a jam, and then oopsie daisy. I find it, I hardly hearing about planned parenting anymore. You have nobody planning parenting.
So, and I take your point, but I just want to clarify something because you've said this before. And yes, if finance is not an issue, if you can hire whoever you want, you could, in your eyes, you're saying, well, of course I can have as many children as I want, right? Because that biology, yeah, of course I could have sex with several different women. It could be one woman. You could have 10, 12, 13, however many children. But what you're taking away from the fact that we spoke about a father and a dad is one key word: responsibility.
Right.
So having money and being responsible is two different things, because you have a responsibility as a father to be present in that child's life. And that's not just time. Because can you with 10 children at that particular, and
there are men who have 13.
And are they really there?
Yes, in all of their lives. Yes, it can be done.
You see,
if you have the time to do it.
Niall, I'm glad you answered the question still, because you see how, even though you see how intentional he was about what it is, that is the important part, because everybody relationship different, right? Everybody marriage different. You would want everybody would want their wives to do different things, but being intentional about it. So if you know, here it is, I have all the money, I have the time, I just want you to make the child. You're letting your wife know. If you say, I don't want you to work, I want you to stay home, I want you to take care of the child, that is what it is. If you say, I want you to, both are we working, both are we bringing in the money, we hiring our babysitter, wherever it is, but having that intention before, and I think is an important part.
I want to shake this thing up. Because I don't want to end with us like beating around the bush and so.
Right.
We've all had unprotected sex, right? Now,
Roy's law? Roy's law?
And in that, have we had the conversation prior to that with the girlfriend, or to say, hey, or has she had the conversation with you to say, hey, are you willing to be a parent? Are you willing to be a daddy? Not call you daddy or papi. We're not talking about that. We're saying to have that conversation. Would that be a vibes killer? Let's be honest. So we're not doing it. We're not emotionally there.
It's okay to kill the vibes.
We're not talking about what we should be doing. We're talking about what is happening.
Well, what I could tell you from my experience is that I am not going in raw with anybody who I can't have a oopsie daisy with.
So you already telling yourself, now you want 10 children, so you know you want the 10 children. So if it happens, not oopsie daisies,
I'm not just
okay,
going to be
good.
wild with it. I'm not just flinging it all over the place. But my internal monologue is, this woman that I'm sleeping with unprotected, if a child was to be a result of this situation, I am okay with it. I can move forward.
That's no, because you want 10 children. I'm talking about in your younger days.
In my younger days, I wasn't having unprotected sex. I was an adult. I had my fears of what could happen, and I applied my intelligence to the situation. And was like, you know what? Let me strap up, because I don't want children.
But Keevo, I know the same wasn't. You can't tell me you're doing the same thing. Let's go. Let's be honest.
What do you mean, same what in terms of what?
Unprotected. We talking manhood here.
You ever had a pregnancy scare?
Yeah, of course.
This is what I talk
You ever
about.
had
Let's talk
someone?
real.
You ever had someone show for you?
No.
You never had somebody had a for you. You ever had someone had a
You
for
said
you?
not that you know of.
No.
Not that I
So
would know, no.
okay.
But
No, okay, so let me go to Robert's saying. You're right, yeah, saying if it's a vibes killer. For me, times I've had unprotected sex, I was mindful of it, because I was like, I don't want, if it's somebody who I don't want to have a child with, or
Right.
it wouldn't, I really don't want to. There are some people, you know what, if you have a child, it's not the end of the world,
Now,
right?
miscarriage is different to somebody having
Right,
an
well,
abortion.
you can't.
I'm just saying,
you can't
your question was very
guesstimate.
specific. So
It was that. It was
Right, but I was being irresponsible, and I could say that because even if because I wasn't financially ready, right? Even though I could have said, well, I didn't mind because I have a connection with this person, but I wasn't ready for it financially, and let me see, at those times I didn't have my own place, right? But at least my own home, so I could say for me, I was taking a chance, and I know many men take a chance, and when you're taking a chance, the truth is, now you're only taking a chance with your life, you're taking a chance with her life, and then you're taking a chance with the possible child life.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying that we sitting high and mighty because we know better now. But I understand what you're saying. But somewhere along the line, even though we men have made mistakes in the past, we are doing our best to impart the knowledge now so that it won't be made in the future. And I can understand why traditional households was the way it was, where sometimes the arranged marriage, I could understand it. You know? I could understand why the made people get married early. I could understand why things were a specific kind of way, like women were shamed for being, when there's not virgins, because most of us humans, we're not responsible, and we need some kind of guidance. So I could tie that back into the role of a man and the father in a household is to put in that structure. Every man know the structure. It may not be the same thing for Keevo and I, but you know the structure you want your household to be in. And it's important that you're intentional with it, and also that you don't compromise with it. Because I'll add one thing and then here come in. When I work with fathers, and remember I said a lot of times what I tell the fathers is confirmation for them that they already know many of these things. My next question is always, without fail, you and the mother on the same page? And 90% of the times is not.
And this
that
is
really
what I'm
problem.
asking. I said it from the start of this segment. I still want to know
What you expect from the wife.
What to expect?
Right. So you know, if you have two visions in a household, they call that division, right? And unless you're on the same page, as Johansi would have said, you're going to have parenting being done in two different ways in the same household. We're just going to split the child in terms of, well, I could go by mommy and get this, and go by daddy and get it.
Well, we all went through that.
Exactly.
That's how we know that.
So where's the united front in terms of what does my child eat on a morning? How what kind of table manners do we instill? What time to go to sleep? All these things. I can't hear from my wife, oh God, give him my next thing. No. I don't say no already. And if the mother says no, and I can't come and say, oh God, the boy is a boy. No, it can't work like that. So the expectation,
not in front of the child anyway.
Exactly. So the expectation is that when we're in front of the child, we are a united front. All the other things in terms of, I want my wife to cook on her morning, all them things don't matter. What I need from you is that we on the same page, and if I talk, we both agree. When you talk, I on your side. If we go in the bed ourselves and I say, here now, we should have better do that different next time, then we go there. Because you don't want that split.
No, but is it that the between you and your wife, you all decide who's the disciplinarian in the situation?
It happens.
It happens. It happens.
Good cop, bad cop.
Just mainly is usually the man in terms of based on the situation sometimes. But my wife could call me now and say, look, daddy on the phone. Boom, everything back to normal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the disciplinarian. I don't mind being that, but it's not that
That's the bad guy disciplinarian.
Yeah. I can be the
Well,
bad guy.
it's not. We hear that term bandied about all. It's not good cop, bad cop. It's just that a child is very smart. Children are very, very smart, and they know who they can get away with something, who they could get away with what, and who they can't. And so the father generally, with the voice and all the rest of it, they know, hey, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So they know who to play, you know, and more so in these relationships, what you'll hear is the woman in front of the child sometimes, oh God, baby, let him have another one now, or let me just give him a little bit more now. All of these things, even though it's done in a very nice and respectful way, it is still sending a different message.
Yeah.
That to that child's computer and boy, I could
Divide and conquer.
I could still get it from mom, or mom begging for me. So what Keevo is saying is that even though we don't agree at that point, even if it's a text message, even if you say I could have a word with you, whatever the case may be, it needs to be a united front. So at that point, you could then come back and say, you know what? If you do so and so, I'll give you another cookie. It must still come from the same source.
So my mother and I spoke about it, and we have agreed, right?
Yes.
So there's a clip on social media where there was a mother who had a son before, and she married somebody, and he was telling the young boy, he was playing PlayStation, and he said, do your homework, it's 7 o'clock. And he said, well, I want to finish this game. The wife was in the kitchen, and said, there's just one more game. and he kept lamenting, it's 7 o'clock. He pull out everything, throw it in the bin, the PlayStation, pour milk on it, and say, do it now. And the wife was like, what's this? But for him, he's like, I already spoke. And 7 o'clock is the time for homework. You can't come and tell me now, hey, is this just a game? No. So then what you have me here for? Right? So this is where I think the whole aspect of roles and responsibilities, there are some things that are now a little gray, but there are some things that just, listen, as a man of the house, when I speak discipline-wise, you have to move, right? And I can't get that back talk from the other person who's supposed to be next to me, supporting to us to raise the
So the expectation in that situation is that you would want your wife to have the father as the leader in the household in that particular in those instances.
And well, it depends again. It is primarily seen like that, but it could be, for example, at home. Abigail, she would say something with Noah, and I will support that. I will say, Noah, you heard your mother, and reinforce the fact that listen, right? But it can't be that if I'm saying something to Noah at that point, that Abigail comes and says, oh God, just let him, or you could just have one more, or goes and pause him more after I've said no, because it sends a signal to the child.
So it's not necessarily a leader or follower versus just being united.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
And whoever takes the front is just a matter of sharing it in front of the child or children. And then if you have a disagreement, you either go away and discuss it, and the person who's made the comment. So if I say, no more juice, right now, you've had enough, time to read or whatever the case may be. If we go away and discuss it and she comes and says, hey, listen, he had a lot of swimming, he's really thirsty, I could then come and say, hey, you know what, okay, if you read that page, we'll get some more juice. It's coming from the same person who said no.
Gotcha.
Right? As opposed to, oh God, he just came from swimming, give him a bit more. Those are the different things, because again, to the child, it's sending different signals. But again, really rich conversation. And we've extended this segment specifically to really get into the nuts and bolts of this thing called parenting, which we don't have the answers. But certainly
we have the answers, but it may not be always the perfect answers. And
see, like what he did there, if you did that in front of, where they no, somebody said, like that. That's a perfect example,
my
right?
My apologies. I just wanted to say that one of the things that I really admire is a sincere father, right? I ain't say perfect, I ain't say the best in the world, but a sincere father. It's a father who really want to take care of his child, whether you have $1 million or $10. And I'm putting that out there because even fathers watching or men who want to be fathers, it's a serious decision. It's an adult decision. So before you even have the decision, make the decision to have sex, know who you even having sex with. If you even that this person even want to be the mother of your child. And then whenever you are a father, know that it wouldn't be perfect, but once you're sincere and you really have the best interest of that child at hand, you're good, Because I'll give one quick story. I remember in a custody battle, the mom was blocking the father from seeing the child. And the father would go every weekend just by the gate to see the child. And his interaction with the child would be the child looking out the window, and he would be by the gate. And he did that for almost 8 years. And after that, when the child was 18, the child never forget. The child didn't get no gifts, didn't get no nothing, But every Sunday, I know my father was there now. So the child built trust with our father, even had no conversation, just by looking. So I draw that reference, the importance of being intentional, being sincere, and then being consistent.
Keevo?
One thing, my wife taught me a valuable lesson the other day because I was struggling with managing my time. Because Keevo is doing everything. And she said, when you go to the grocery, you can't bring all the bags inside one time. You could try, right? But if you do it, you will damage yourself, right? So I thought my wife Dana for that lesson. And I realized that there are points in time where I may not be present because I'm outside bringing back the bread, right? But when I am, don't be present and absent, meaning you study it. No. Make sure you invested because even with my mom knows that if I lying, there's a certain facial expression that I have because she knows my face and she looks for my face since I've been a child. So that's what kind of father you need to be. When you are there now and you're spending time, make sure you're looking at this child 24/7,
Studying them.
so that you're studying their quirks, and you could predict that. There was one point in time we went to the grocery and I realized, wait now, you turn left, I know where you're going. I said, don't go inside there. I already know where you're going for because you invested. So it's important for you to know that, listen, don't be hard on yourself. You're carrying all the groceries inside sometimes. Bring the important things inside, but make sure you bring everything outside, inside. And whenever you're there, hold on to what, if this is making money time, hold on to it, bring it inside. If it's children time, hold on to it. Don't study what you brought inside or what you still have to bring inside with other things in your hand. So if you're with the child, make sure you invest it.
That was actually really good. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's actually
So
really
Dana-
I might bring it on.
Dana, we liking that one. We liking that one. That one was really deep. And to, when Johan say, I know we joke about it all the time when he spoke about in his disagreement. Again, we just want to reiterate. We don't ask, or we don't have all the answers. But as a friend of mine said, but we ask a couple good questions, and that is. In that sense, that's the way I try to be a parent to my son, and the way I would look at it. As you spoke about, giveaway signs. My dad, when he was telling an untruth, his lip would always quiver. That's how a lip like that. And he knew that, but he knew when he was doing it, and that we knew it, and it made it fun. But I really take your point, Keevo, and one of the it's really important that. We're not here for a long time, but you could be there for a good time, and therefore it's important for that moment to really invest. If I decide I'm in front of you and I'm speaking to you, I'm not only observing, but I'm giving you what I can, which is more than any finance. With I'm giving you my time, and these are memories that we're building, and that's more important than anything else. Other than, I'm here, I'm sitting down because there's that other saying. I know Nile like my sayings. You can be alone in a crowded space, and you can be sat down with your child and on your phone, on a device watching TV. Even sitting down with a child watching TV, you're still disconnected because you're both in an environment looking at something, but you're not interacting.
Yeah.
There's that moment you're gonna look back and say, "Hey, remember that good movie we watched?"
Yeah.
So for me, it's taking my son, as you said about bringing things inside. For me, my bonding is taking him outside,
Right.
and being away from the devices, making sure I'm connecting in a way that's really meaningful, impactful, specific, and that is only father and son time. And so it comes down to the fear, which I have, and I'm sure maybe a couple of you have, of, am I making the right choice? I don't know, but it's right for me. And I hope it's right for him, and that as both parents, that we raise someone that we're both proud of and that makes an impact in society. And more importantly, if I have one message to anyone out there, as a father, is regardless of the situation, as Johanse shared in a story, is be present in whatever capacity you can.
The best as you can. My last takeaway, I'll leave it with an ethical question that I'll pose to you guys and to the people at home, right? The question is, if a woman has the deciding factor whether or not she could be a mother or not, she has that choice, right? When she does get pregnant, she could choose. A man don't necessarily have that choice. So the question is, should a man be able to, if it is a woman, could decide to be a mother or not? Should a man have the ability to say, I want to be present in his child's life or not? You understand? Should he be able to say that?
We leave in that.
We're just leaving that to float out there.
That's a whole other.
It's for the conversation. Get the juices flowing.
Yeah.
That's for the next.
So
Next episode of Manhood.
So before we close, I want to know, Keevo, if you have anything, because Dana clearly have some real good insightful pieces there. I wonder if you have anything that you may want to leave us with on
Well,
Manhood.
it just stems on the last point I made. I think when you hear the word privilege, you think about finance all the time. But it was a privilege, God rest his soul, having a relationship with my father. So having a privileged child doesn't necessarily mean giving him finance or her finance. is having a child who had the privilege of experiencing you as a parent in your holistic sense, not just being able to get $1,000 a month as salary because you're abroad. It's important for you to give them the privilege of knowing you and you knowing them.
This was manhood. Johanse, Keevo, Niles.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.